Okay, let's do this.
Let's do this.
The war between Chuck and Jimmy in Better Call Saul isn't just some petty domestic squabble. It's not just about two brothers fighting over their parents' attention. It is, in every sense of the word, a Greek tragedy staged in the beige courtrooms of Albuquerque. It is the collision of two fundamentally incompatible universes. And in this deep dive, I want to get uncomfortable. I want to ask the question that usually gets you yelled at by the fandom. Was Chuck actually right to gatekeep his brother?
You have to know, on some level, I know you know I'm right. You know I'm right.
How did his silent, creeping betrayal sculpt the face of Saul Goodman? And why was that infamous line about the chimp with a machine gun not just an insult, but the epitaph for the entire legal system of the show? Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Chuck McGill is easily the most hated man in the Vince Gilligan universe. He generates more visceral loathing than Gus Fring or Lalo Salamanca ever could. But he is also the most tragically misunderstood. Try, just for a second, to live inside his head. Wrap yourself in the space blanket. Look at the world through his eyes. Here is a man who built his life brick by brick. He worshipped the law, sacrificed his personal life, and became a pillar of the community through sheer grinding discipline. Then his little brother, Slippin' Jimmy.
You're slipping, Jimmy. What do you got to change, huh?
The guy who spent his youth grifting in Cicero and calling from jail cells, decides he wants to wear the same costume. To Chuck, this isn't a heartwarming redemption arc. It's a desecration. It's someone pissing on the altar. When Chuck drops that nuclear line,
Fine, but slipping Jimmy with a law degree is like a chimp with a machine gun.
he isn't just being mean. He is expressing a primal, existential terror. Chuck believed the law was sacred, mankind's greatest invention.
It's mankind's greatest achievement.
And watching Jimmy, the same kid who pilfered the cash drawer at their dad's corner store, get handed a law license, that caused him physical pain. It's like watching a vandal spray paint a cathedral and getting applause for it. We make a mistake when we watch the show. We view it through Jimmy's lens, so we see Chuck as the villain, the jealous, petty older brother keeping the underdog down. But let's play devil's advocate. Listen to the people who defend Chuck. They have a point. Chuck saw right through Jimmy's mask, not because he was clairvoyant, but because he had the receipts. Look at the history with their father. Chuck remembers what Jimmy conveniently forgot or repressed. The slow bleed of the family business. The missing money. The naive father who wouldn't believe his precious Jimmy would steal. Chuck connects that theft directly to the financial ruin and eventual death of their father. That is the foundational trauma.
My dad wouldn't hear it. Nope. Not his Jimmy. 6 months later, he was dead.
For Chuck, Jimmy is, and always will be, that grifter from Illinois who can't help himself. As he said in court,
There's nothing malicious in Jimmy. He has a way of doing the worst things for reasons that sound almost noble.
he views Jimmy as an addict, an addicted to the shortcut. And if you look at the long game, that diagnosis was terrifyingly accurate. There is this comforting fantasy fans love to cling to. If only Chuck had hired Jimmy at HHM. If only he'd given him a chance, Saul Goodman would never have been born.
Call me, Saul Goodman. The world needs to know about you and your business.
I've chewed on this for a long time, and I'm calling it, that's a lie. It's wishful thinking. The proof is right there in Season 2. Look at Davison, Maine. It's the perfect control group for this experiment. Jimmy had it all. A six-figure salary, the corporate housing, the Mercedes, and a boss in Cliff, Maine who was practically a saint in terms of patience. Jimmy had the validation he claimed he wanted. And what did he do? Picture that light switch in his office, the one with the tape over it. What does Jimmy do the second he's alone? He peels back the tape and flicks the switch. Why? Because he was cold? No. He did it because the sign said, don't. He did it because rules that don't make sense to him are physical irritants. That tiny, silent moment proves Chuck's thesis.
People don't change. You're slipping Jimmy.
Jimmy doesn't just break rules for profit. He breaks them for the dopamine hit. He gets off on the subversion. No amount of prestige at HHM would have cured that itch. Eventually, he would have slipped. But, and this is a massive but, Chuck's righteousness doesn't make him a saint. His methods were rot. The betrayal wasn't just that he stopped Jimmy. It was how he did it. It was cowardly. For years, Jimmy played the nursemaid, bringing ice, bacon, newspapers, sitting in the dark, indulging a mental illness that made life hell. And the whole time, Chuck was smiling to his face while using Howard Hamlin as a human shield to kill Jimmy's dreams. That is moral bankruptcy. A real man, a brother, would have looked Jimmy in the eye and said, "I love you, but I don't trust you with the law." Chuck couldn't do that. He preferred the shadows. He loved the hierarchy. Chuck in the penthouse, Jimmy in the mailroom. The moment Jimmy tried to take the elevator up, Chuck cut the cables. It's professional jealousy mixed with a deep, festering personal wound.
Jimmy certainly has a way with people.
He does.
The mom issue. We have to talk about the death of their mother. It is the single cruelest act in the entire series. She wakes up, looks around, and calls out for Jimmy, not Chuck, who has been holding her hand for days. Jimmy. And then she dies. When Jimmy comes back with sandwiches and asks if she said anything, Chuck says no.
Did she say anything? No.
He stole her last words. He robbed his brother of that closure. That isn't protecting the law. That is pure distilled spite. It's revenge for a lifetime of being the dutiful son who was respected but never adored, while Jimmy was the screw-up who was loved unconditionally. In that hospital room, Chuck was just as much a manipulator as Jimmy ever was. And then we get to chicanery, the courtroom showdown. This isn't just a legal win for Jimmy, it's an assassination. Jimmy doesn't just disprove the case, he eviscerates his brother's identity. He weaponizes Chuck's mental illness, the very thing he spent years protecting him from, and puts it on display for the gallery. The battery in the pocket? Genius, cruel. When Chuck finally snaps,
I am not crazy. I know he swapped those numbers. I knew it was 1216.
it's tragic, because he's right. Every word he screams is factually true. Jimmy did swap the numbers. Jimmy did bribe the clerk. But Jimmy engineered the context so perfectly that the truth sounded like the ravings of a lunatic. Chuck was screaming facts, but nobody was listening. They just saw a broken old man melting down. Chuck was right. Jimmy is dangerous. But here's the irony. Chuck created the monster he feared. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you tell a kid he's a thief every day of his life, eventually he's going to steal something just to prove you right. The Sandpiper case was the point of no return. Jimmy found a gold mine in a dumpster. He did the legwork. He built a class-action suit out of shredded paper. He brought it to his brother like a golden retriever bringing a prize. And Chuck shut the door in his face again. When Jimmy says,
I thought you were proud of me.
you can hear the snap. That was the moment James McGill died. He realized the game was rigged. If he couldn't win by playing straight, because Chuck wouldn't let him, he would win by cheating better than anyone else. There's also this worldview clash, wolves and sheep. Jimmy learned early on that the world is divided into dupes and sharks. Chuck chose the law to be the biggest shark in the tank. Look at how he treated Kim Wexler with Mesa Verde. He didn't just fight to keep a client. He fought to humiliate. He patronized her. He wanted to crush her simply because she was aligned with Jimmy. That wasn't business. It was a vendetta. The end of their relationship is bleak. Chuck's final words to Jimmy are devastating.
But the truth is, you've never mattered all that much to me.
Whatever you think of Chuck, you know that is a lie. A cold, calculated lie designed to inflict maximum damage. Jimmy mattered too much. Jimmy was the obsession. By saying you don't matter, Chuck tried to erase their history, to deny Jimmy even the dignity of being an antagonist. And it worked. It broke Jimmy so completely that he stopped feeling. He walled off the grief and became Saul Goodman full-time. Look at the carnage. Howard Hamlin. Poor Howard. He was the only adult in the room, trying to mediate between two man-children. Chuck used him as a pawn. Jimmy used him as a punching bag. Jimmy hated Howard because Howard actually processed his grief. Howard went to therapy. Howard admitted his faults. Jimmy couldn't handle that mirror, so he threw bowling balls at it. And Kim? Chuck nailed that prediction too. He warned her, he told her Jimmy was a wrecking ball. And look what happened. Kim, the moral center of the show, got addicted to the thrill. She broke bad. She destroyed Howard's reputation for fun, Chuck said.
You're just going to keep hurting people
That's not true.
You hurt people over and over.
He was batting 1,000 on that one.
Other people suffer because of us.
But here is where Chuck loses me. Here is where the tragedy lands. Chuck was right on the facts, but he failed the humanity test. He knew the statutes, but he didn't understand grace. If he had shown Jimmy 1 ounce of genuine pride, just once, the trajectory changes. If he had said, "Good job getting that degree," or "Great work on Sandpiper, let's co-counsel," Jimmy wouldn't have needed to seek validation from drug lords. Chuck's arrogance pushed Jimmy onto the road that led to Lalo. And let's not forget Ernesto. Chuck set a trap for his own brother using his loyal employee as bait. Was it legal? Sure. Was it ethical? Hell no. Chuck was willing to burn everyone around him to prove a point. The finale, Saul Gone, gives us that heartbreaking flashback. Chuck picks up Herbert Wells's book, The Time Machine. He tries, awkwardly, to reach out.
If you don't like where you're heading, there's no shame in going back and changing your path.
The irony is suffocating. Chuck is the one who never changed his path. He was rigid. He died in his house because he couldn't bend. He demanded change from Jimmy that he was incapable of himself. So, was Chuck right? Technically, yes. Jimmy became a criminal who helped build a meth empire. But was Chuck good? No. His obsession with being right destroyed his family. But then comes the twist. The ending. In that final courtroom scene, Jimmy finally does what Chuck always wanted. He confesses. He stops slipping. He trades a sweet 7-year plea deal for an 86-year life sentence just to clear his conscience and win back a shred of respect from Kim. That act proves Chuck wrong. Chuck's core belief was, people don't change. But Jimmy did. When the cost became too high, when the lies finally tasted like ash, Jimmy changed. He killed Saul Goodman to resurrect James McGill.
Before you destroy yourself or someone else, and I believe you can change, you'll find your path. And when you're ready, I will be there.
Chuck died thinking he was right, alone in a burning house. Jimmy ends up in prison, baking bread, but he's at peace. The law sorted them out. Jimmy, the criminal, found redemption within the system. Chuck, the paragon of law, was consumed by it. Remember Chuck screaming about the Magna Carta?
I know he swapped those numbers. I knew it was 1216. One after Magna Carta, as if I could ever make such a mistake. Never. Never.
That wasn't about the date. That was about his ego. He couldn't conceive of a universe where he made a mistake. Jimmy knew that vanity was Chuck's kill switch, and he pressed it. In the end, Chuck McGill is a warning. He was a genius. He was right about the danger his brother posed, but he serves as a brutal reminder that you can be right about everything and still lose your soul. He won every argument and lost every person who loved him. Chuck saw the future. He saw the chimp with the machine gun, but he was blind to the brother standing right in front of him. And that blindness burned everything down.
I am done.